So OM took it over, and it still looks like a pub, still smells like a pub. But the pastor guy, that's his church. And every day after school, he has the school kids coming in and he gives them a plate of soup and some bread. And for many of these kids, in fact, if not all of them, that is the only meal they maybe have that day. Because alcoholism is right, because people are poor and they turn to drink and drugs and all the rest of it. So they can't feed their kids, can't clothe them properly. So we, through OM, partner with churches in the west of the world, Western world, to support OM. If Jesus was here, that's what he'd be telling us to do. Get alongside people, clothe them. So in this church, this is what the pastor does, and it's a dirty old pub. But why waste money and paying that poor in the countries that we, and there's many types of ministries there. So instead of me letting her know about it, I'm going to get David to press the button and show the next video.
Many don't know where their next meal will be coming from, where children and elderly are behind. For children, help to neglected around or reach you can float built raft of the country, village to village by force and coffee, you to a new level of trust and comfort zone, and learn from others. Will you let your faith be strengthened and venture as God uses you to change lives? Will you give 2 weeks for something that really matters?
God calls each of us to give of our time, our talents, our gifts, our monies to serve church and to serve others. And I'm sure you guys here are doing that within this church and within this community. Because you are the church. This is just a building. You are the church, and God calls you to reach out to the church. And as I was praying earlier, that this church is on a hill in a good position to be a light to the community. I could stand here for hours telling you about all the work. I could show you lots of videos, but I don't have time. But I've only got one more video I want to show you because it warms my heart, and I've seen it hundreds of times now, about the work we do, the unknown work to the world that we do to help women who have been sold off in marriage, who have been sold off into slavery. And sorry, it's still going on. We've seen it in the telly, that they're still selling their children in Afghanistan to feed themselves. That is going on in Moldova, it's going on in Afghanistan, where parents are so desperate to feed the rest of their kids. Right, we'll give Daniel away, we don't need him. We'll get money from him and feed the rest of the family. That is happening. The refugees who I met when I was in Serbia, do you know what I did in Serbia? I wish I could show that video. I served tea. We worked for UNHCR, and in fact I just read this morning we're getting a new tent. We've got a big tent there, UNHCR, United Nations, and our role with 1,500 refugees was to make them a wee cup of tea. Can you imagine going through the day and the week without a cup of tea? These people in their desperate situation there. And I met some amazing Christians who God had challenged and God had led them out of where they were to in the other lands. Migrants, yes, but desperate Christians.
This project that we found, which means they're being married off of 12 or 13 years, and that obviously they're not prepared to give birth off in those time of their lives. And happens is these young girls are married off to illegal. They try to give birth. Often what happens is the birth canal is ruptured, and they become what is called fistula patients. So I won't go into all the details except that the consequences of having that damage to the birth canal is the husband divorce them, kicked out of the streets, families disown. That's considered tremendous. Families disown them. It's considered a tremendous shame. The women who are part of this program, first of all, because they're fistula patients, we have the surgeries done to give them the physical restoration, and then in cooperation with the hospital, we do vocational training. So we teach them the skill of sewing, and once they've gone through our whole course, we actually give them a sewing machine, and then they're able to set up a home base for their children. I mean, at this point, I wish we could help a lot more women, but for those women who have surgeries done and then getting a skill are having a new lease on life. They have new things. I can go forward with my life. So our hope is expanded, certainly.
Have the work of OM in a nutshell. That's not all the work we do. We do lots more, but as I said, don't have time to share other things about OM. But I wanted to share something for the kids. Okay, to share something with you guys as adults and bigger children, because basically at the end of the day we're all God's children, aren't we? Some of us in long trousers and etc. So hopefully you'll follow me. I've brought my colouring book with me. It's called Holy Bible Colouring Book. My wife bought me this. I thought it was very kind of her, and she got me this colouring book, but unfortunately there's no pictures in it. But Daniel, you go to school, don't you? What do you learn at school? Maths. My least favourite subject. I can't count to save myself. What else do you learn? Writing. Well, that's a good one, right? And Anna, what do you learn when you're at school? History. I didn't like history. Figures again. 1066. Can't remember that, but I remember 1314 when we beat England 1-0. Anyway, what other things do you guys learn at school? Shout out. Sorry? French. Ooh. Must have been a posh school. You learn French. Takes me all my time speaking English. Anyway, when you learn all these things, Daniel, David, and Anna, and everybody else, we learn all these things, it gives you a kind of an outline to your life. You see? It gives you an outline to life. Before you're nothing, life was blank and all the rest of it, an outline to your life, and you become an intelligent person like me. Nah, I'm not intelligent. My wife's the intelligent one. She's got degrees coming out her ears, whereas I don't. I left school at 15 with nothing, and and I went to the University of Life. Some of you may have went to that same university, the University of Life, and you have a fulfilled life. But do you know what's made my life more fulfilled? Do you remember the date I quoted earlier, the 8th of January 1969, about 9:15 at night, I went to a gospel club in the East End of Glasgow. And coming from the West End of Glasgow, that was a bit risky, because the different gangs were in different areas. And I came for the drum chapel where we had the dairy gag. But good thing about Bristol, they had the Bristol dairy gag as well. But I went there, heard the gospel, and became a Christian. And the difference it made to my life, that it brought colour, brought purpose, brought meaning to my life, because before, as a non-Christian, I just had an outline to my life. But when I became a Christian, God fulfilled my life and gave me colour. So can I encourage you today, if you're not a Christian, accept Jesus into your life. Your life will have meaning, will have purpose, and you can serve God wherever you are. And as I said earlier, grey hair or nay hair, if you can make a cup of tea, you can go to Serbia for a week and work with OM and work with United Nations, serving a cup of tea, bringing encouragement to refugees. It's just amazing how God can use you, your gifts and your talents and your abilities. Okay, on the ship we're looking for carpenters, joiners, etc. And we're always looking for skilled people in various places. But what we're also looking for is people who are just available. Oh, I'm blinded by the light here. So, OM bit over, that's my kids bit over. Hopefully you big kids enjoyed. And I now want to share from God's Word. We heard from Psalm 23 earlier, and I want to just use as a kick-off point the last verse. For surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As Christians, that's what we believe, that we will be forever with God in life. But the question I want to ask you today, as I ask myself, what will be your legacy? What will people remember you for? Because as we get older and we leave this earth and we come into the presence of God, people will talk about you. There was a dear friend died a few weeks ago, Clive Bailey, at Stirling Free Church. And his legacy was amazing, being the principal of the Free Church College in Lima, and the work he's done in helping to found Stirling Free Church with Murdo Murchison and Ian McCaskill. That's his legacy. What will your legacy be? What will people remember you for? And I hope today that you have the saving knowledge that you are a follower of Jesus in your life. And briefly I want to share 3 points. The call comes to each of us.